Hello my friends, and welcome to a reading vlog. This reading vlog is going to be dedicated to indie horror books. I feel like I haven't read a ton of indie horror books in the last few months, and I try to keep it pretty balanced between the books I read being published by big publishing companies and well-known authors, and then books that I've never heard of and I feel like too many people aren't talking about. I try to keep it pretty balanced. Sometimes it's not always as balanced as I would like it to be, so I am dedicating this vlog to indie horror. I'm going to try to read 2 to 3 books in this vlog. I don't know how many I'm going to get to because of how long one of the books might be. I haven't fully decided which books I'm including in this video yet, but one of the possibilities is on the longer side, so if that one gets included, I definitely won't have time to include all the books I want to for this one, so this might have to be like a reoccurring vlog that I do every couple of months, so that way I can include more and more books. But the first book that I am going to read is also part of my February TBR. Bravo, Erin. Actually reading books on the TBR, that's kind of insane for me. But I'm going to start with Betty Bites Back. It says there are 16 writers in here and it's feminist fiction to frighten the patriarchy. So I'm really excited for this one. I think it sounds fun. I liked it because of the cover and I feel like it's a fun February, Valentine's Day, Galentine's Day pick kind of book. And I have not heard anyone talking about this really. I've really not seen it anywhere. So I am going to read this short story collection first and tell you what I think about it. Hopefully it's good. You know, short story collections can be hit or miss. I love a short story collection, but sometimes they don't deliver fully, so I'm hoping this one is a hit and not a miss, but I guess we will know more once I read it. So I will take you along the journey of me reading Betty Bites Back and then, you know, update you along the way. So let's get into it. Hello friends, I am checking in. I'm sorry I didn't check in last night, but I was doing Friday night reading sprints on Patreon and I just was like really tired after I did that, so I just didn't have a chance to check in, and I just got done filming a video, so I figured this was the perfect time to check in. But I am fairly far into Betty Bites Back. I believe I'm on the 10th story out of 16, and it's very interesting. They're all very, very different. From the back, it definitely says that they are all like kind of like different genres of stories. Like it says it's going to be like fantasy, science fiction, fractured fairy tales, historical settings, and then like contemporary world. So I kind of went in knowing that they were going to be very different from each other. Some of the stories do read a little bit YA, and I think it does say that they said the rating for this book was like 16 plus, so I guess it does make sense that they feel a little bit YA, but I've actually really enjoyed most of the stories. I think what I might do, I've never done this before for a short story collection, but I know a lot of other people do. I know they give ratings to each individual story and then like kind of tally it up to give them a more understanding of what the rating of the overall book is. I might do that. I'm not really sure because I don't know how I feel about rating it so far because I really am enjoying all the stories. Some of them aren't necessarily my favorite kind of like genres, you know, like I don't love the fantasy heavy stories, but each story is dealing with, you know, feminism, being a woman, you know, that kind of thing. And like, I relate to the stories even though I may not necessarily like the genre that it's being written in. And I also really like that after each story, the author has like a little like blurb at the end kind of saying like why they decided to write the story, like what it means to them kind of thing. Like kind of giving a little bit of a more explanation, and I actually really like that a lot. So I don't know, they're kind of a little cheesy at times. I think that if you identify as a woman, you would really relate to a lot of these stories, because I do. So I think that's part of the reason I really like them, is I understand them, I get it. Like, I also can put myself in the shoes of the characters, and they're very interesting stories. So I actually am really enjoying this one a lot. I'm just not sure how I'll rate it yet. Again, I might do the individual story thing, we'll see, but I'm really close to being done. I only have 6 stories left, so I will update you when I finish, and then kind of give you more of my thoughts, maybe tell you my favorite stories, whatnot, and then we will move on to the next book that I will be reading. So I will update you when I finish. Hello my friends, it's time for a check-in. I finished Betty Bites Back, and I'm here to talk about it. I actually really enjoyed this short story collection. I thought it was a lot of fun. I feel like I'm going to give it 4 stars. I did do the thing that I was talking about where I wrote down every story, gave them all individual like star ratings, and then like added it up to get like the average and stuff, and it came out to like a 3.4 I think, but I am gonna round it up to a 4 because I feel like overall I really enjoyed the collection. I do feel like some of the stories come off a little bit YA. I was talking about that a little bit earlier, and it does say in the book that this is like for 16 and plus, so it does make sense that some of these are a little bit, they're not as intense, they don't go there all the way in some of the stories. Some of them you can definitely tell that feel a little bit more YA, and some of them feel a little bit more dark, a little bit more adult horror. I don't think that's a bad thing though. I will say this is a really diverse short story collection. There's non-binary characters. Of course, this is a focus on like women as well, so a lot of women protagonists and stuff like that. So I feel like this is a really diverse collection, and I really appreciated that. So my favorite short stories were Vagina Dentata, What She Left Behind, Shadows, Good Sister, Bad Sister, The Whispers. The Whispers was my absolute favorite. I would have loved to see that turn into a full-length novel. That one was amazing. Like, when I finished it, I was like, I want more, please, please, please give me more. I also liked Smile and The Change. There were actually 2 poems in here as well, which isn't usually my favorite thing. I usually don't love poetry. I appreciate poetry and I like what it is, but I just personally, like, my brain can't really grasp poetry that well. Like, I just don't fully like get it all the way sometimes, but I do like poetry. Like, I like the idea of poetry. I do have to say that I actually did enjoy the 2 poems in here. I was actually surprised that I did enjoy them as much as I did, but they were really fun and they were very easy to follow. It wasn't like you had to have these big thinks about them. You didn't have to sit there and really ponder to try to get the actual meaning. They were very straightforward, which I think helped a lot. I'm not the biggest critical reader, so when poems, short stories and stuff, they're a little bit more straightforward, I feel like I have a better understanding with them. I feel like sometimes stories can come off a little like too deep for me, and like I have to think about them too hard, and that just makes me kind of bored or annoyed. But I did not have that problem with these poems or these short stories. Like I said earlier, I think that if you identify as a woman, you will probably relate to these stories. I think everyone could probably find one that they really like and like identify with. I know that there were stories in here, especially Smile. I was reading it and it just like would trigger memories that I had and like situations that I felt like I related to and stuff like that. So I think this would be a very relatable short story collection for people that identify as women. I also think that if you're a man, you would definitely get something out of this collection. I urge you to pick it up even if you are. I don't think that this is obviously limited to women, but I do think that it is nice to see these kinds of short stories and these kinds of authors and these kinds of messages in short stories. I think it is very important, and I definitely think that we can relate to them, and I think it's helpful to see our feelings and our emotions and even our similar stories reflected into something that we can read, and just kind of a way to like feel connected to other women and to feel like we aren't alone. So I definitely think this is an important short story collection. I definitely think it's a lot of fun. Some of them are a little like silly and lighthearted, but a lot of them do have really like impactful messages, and I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I definitely think it's at least a 4-star. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I was able to read it. And you know, I highly recommend it. I don't know if I would recommend it if you don't love short story collections, because it's a short story collection and there are different kinds, obviously poems, really short stories, and then really long stories in here too. So it is kind of like a mixed bag in here. So I don't know if you would love it if you don't typically love short story collections, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. So next, I have already started These Ghosts Bleed by Christy Aldridge. This is kind of a revenge story. This is about a man who is grieving the loss of his wife. His wife committed suicide, and he happens to find these books that she has written and he did not know about, and he is trying to pass them off as his own. However, his wife, even dead, will not let him get away with it. So I'm only like 100 pages in so far. It's pretty chunky. It's a pretty long book, but I'm enjoying it, I guess. The husband is a absolutely terrible character. He is horrible. He is horrific. So I'm really hoping that where I'm at now, we're gonna start to see him get some karma, hopefully see the wife get some revenge on her husband, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it. It's a little slow, but it's also pretty fast to read. The chapters aren't super long, so it feels like I'm reading it faster than I think I am, because again, I'm only like 100 pages in right now, but I am going to try to finish this tonight. This might be the last book in this reading vlog because I am trying to get it edited soon for you all, so this might be the last book in this vlog, but I figured 2 indie horror would be fun still. I'm going to continue reading this one, and I will update you when I get a little bit more into it. Hello friends, it is time for the last check-in. Last night I finished These Ghosts Bleed, and I have a lot of thoughts about this one. I'm really not sure what I fully think about this one because it's really not what I expected this book to be at all. So like I said, the plot is about Alan. His wife Anna commits suicide and he is left grieving but very angry at her. So he ends up finding these books that she had written but never published, and he decides that he is going to pass them off as his own and take credit for them, but she's not going to let him do that even though she is dead. I went into this book thinking that it was a revenge story, and it is a revenge story. It is, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought there was going to be more to this book, I guess, because it is very chunky. It's over 400 pages, which is not super duper long, but we all know that I don't really like books over like 300 to 350 because I find that to be just too much most of the time. So this to me was just too long, and I feel like the beginning went by really fast and the end went by really fast, but the chapters in the middle were actually super long compared to the chapters in the beginning and the end. And in the middle, I found that just nothing was really happening. We were just kind of following Alan along, and Alan is not a good person. He is horrible. He's disgusting. He's a terrible man, and I think this book was just too long for me to have to stay in Alan's mind and listen to his BS and listen to him be just super annoying and abusive and toxic and just evil. I understand that we obviously aren't supposed to like Alan. Alan is the bad guy. I get that, but for me, he was just too much and this book was too long, and me having to stay in Alan's mind for that long kind of made me want to slam my head into a wall. I really liked the beginning of this book and I really liked the end, some of the end of this book, but the middle was just, I think there could have been stuff cut out. I think there was just a lot of filler and a lot of like nothing happening, just trying to prolong the story, and ideally I would have liked the middle to have been a lot more focused on the aspect of revenge, but I feel like the revenge didn't really come into play until the very end. Like I said, this isn't quite what I expected from a revenge horror story. I think I had my own like expectations and my own just kind of idea of what I expected this to be, and it really didn't turn out to be that. So I really wish in the middle we had more tension and more buildup. I feel like it felt very flat for what it was supposed to be doing and for what it was gearing us up to go towards. Like the ending I felt like could have been really climactic and really like intense and punchy had the middle built it up a bit better. I feel like the tone of the book was really flat and one note the majority of the time, and I was really looking for those creepy, tense, atmospheric, revenge-filled kind of scenes, and I really feel like I didn't get that. The ending is much quicker than the middle. Like I said, once everything kind of starts coming, it all goes way faster. But I will say that I was slightly disappointed with how this book ends, just because, like I said, it's a revenge, but it's just not what I envisioned for a revenge story. The revenge still happens, it's there, it's just not what I thought we were going to get, and for those reasons I just don't feel like it really worked for me. I did figure out what was happening, like I guess it was a twist. I don't really know if it was supposed to be a twist, to be honest, but that twisty part, I guess, I kind of figured it out at one point because I was like, once things started happening and it started getting a little bit more involved, I guess, I kind of figured out where this was going. I had an idea, and I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed when I figured it out because it's just not what I expected from this book. So for me, this was just too long. Too long to stay in Alan's mind, too long for any tension, no really atmosphere or tension or build up for what kind of ending this book was trying to accomplish. For me, in my opinion, I'm sure this would work for a lot of people because I do know this kind of ending would be a favorite for a lot. And again, the ending's not horrible. I just think if the middle had been a little bit more amped up, the ending would have felt more intense. I think it just felt a little flat the whole time. So for me, it wasn't really anything wild or crazy or intense. And the revenge aspect is just not the kind of revenge that I thought it was going to be. It was still interesting, and I did like this book. I think if I had to give it a rating right now, it would probably be a 3 or a 3.5. I don't think it really stands out compared to other revenge stories that I have read. I can name a few that I would prefer and I think do a better job of having that tension and that atmosphere and that build up. And I just think that the length of this book kind of hindered it, and I think if a bit had been cut out from the middle, just like a good chunk from the middle had been taken out, I think this book would be a lot higher rated for me, but it was just a little too slow, not a lot happening, too long. Alan was horrible, and the ending wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. So for me, this wasn't quite a hit. I didn't hate it, but I don't think it stands out to other books that I've read. So that is going to do it for reading 2 indie horror books. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see me review more indie horror books like this, maybe do a longer vlog. I only did 2 in this one because I kind of ran out of time. And the second book, These Ghosts Bleed, was a little more chunky, so I kind of ran out of time. I wasn't able to sneak more books into this vlog, but if you would like to see me review more indie horror in this kind of format, please let me know in the comments down below. If you have read either of these books, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, and discuss with you. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. It lets me know that you like these kinds of vlogs. That way I can keep providing you with them in the future. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so. We can become friends, talk about books, horrifying books, thrilling books, romance books, manga, all that good fun stuff. And with that being said, I hope you're having a great day, night, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!